Having a different mind sucks. You know what dyslexia is. It makes problems with reading and writing. Every day, as a kid, as a teenager, even as an adult. And this isn't small. This changes everything, your whole life. In my elementary school years, getting a test back was kind of obvious. I already knew what it's going to look like. Red marks all over the page. So I folded it quickly so no one could see, wondering how I was somehow the only kid not getting it right. And after a while, those red marks, they didn't just stay in the pages, they started to stay in me. And school stopped feeling like school and more like anxiety. And this isn't just my story. 60% of dyslexics struggle with their self-esteem, ending up labeled as the dumb kid in school. So at the end of my school years, I made a decision. I never wanted to tell anybody again that I'm dyslexic. I wanted to hide it from other people and especially from myself. So clearly this didn't work out. I have a whole speech about it today because it was always a part of me and I wanted answers. So I researched. 15 to 20% of the population is dyslexic. This makes it incredibly common, and every single one of us in this room knows someone with dyslexia. According to the British Dyslexia Association, dyslexia is a learning difficulty primarily affecting reading and writing. But let me show you what that actually means. Imagine reading like driving on a highway. You see a letter, and it's immediately connected to a sound. A, B, B, and so on. There are shortcuts building up in your brain that make this fast, efficient. The dyslexic brain, on the other side, kind of takes the scenic route. It will eventually get there. However, it takes longer and it's more exhausting. But why? The dyslexic brain relies more on the visual processing part of the brain while reading. When you pick up Rubik's Cube, what is the first thing you do? You spin it around, look at it from different sides, you try to understand it better. And this is literally what the dyslexic brain is doing with everything, even with the 2D letters on the pages. But a P can quickly turn into a D, a Q, a P. This happens unconsciously and is not controlled. The second difference is that the dyslexic brain thinks in pictures. Try to text your friend, but only with emojis. Apple, apple emoji. Car, car emoji. Simple. But what do you text for the word the and they? There's no picture to it, nothing to visualize, nothing to hold on to. And this makes even those little words written down hard to remember for dyslexics. And those little problems have brutal outcomes. And not only for the kids, for entire societies. 50% of all prisoners in the US are dyslexics. 50% of all people experiencing homelessness are dyslexics. And the more I started understanding dyslexia and the topic, the worse I felt about having it. I only saw weaknesses, problems, limitations. There was no answer. And I thought, there are great people out there with dyslexia. Those people must be great, despite that they have it. What do the iPhone, the book press, and modern car manufacturing have in common? Steve Jobs, Gutenberg, and Henry Ford. They were all dyslexics. Those extraordinary individuals. How can that be? And then I found something that changed everything. The strengths behind dyslexia. The so-called dyslexic superpowers. There's a whole book named The Gift of Dyslexia. And just to name a few, 71% of dyslexics are above average in visualization. So the same skill that messes up with your letters makes the best architects. 85% are above average in creativity. And 71% are above average in communication. All skills you need in today's business world. The result? 40% of self-made millionaires and 35% of all entrepreneurs are dyslexics. Because here's something no one tells you about it. Struggling and dyslexia don't have to come hand in hand. Because no one teaches these kids the words in the right way. It's like asking someone to play a game and explaining him the rules in a language he doesn't speak. Because with the right training, dyslexic children are highly capable to learn. Dyslexia doesn't lead to prison time or homelessness, but no support in early years does. You may ask, why don't the teachers help? They simply don't know how to, and special training from an expert is either not available or simply too expensive. After finding this out, together with a friend, we founded LexoraLearn, a learning platform to make this so needed training available. During this time, I've never felt better about dyslexia. I was almost proud of it, having it. And I finally had my answers. And before this talk, I spoke to one of the leading scientists and experts in the dyslexic field to double-check that everything I'm saying here tonight is correct. And I asked proudly about the dyslexic superpowers. And she said, new studies show that dyslexic children are not born with any special abilities. It's knowledge from 20 years ago. Neurodiverse myths. Something people like me like to believe in because it makes them feel better. And I sat there. I had to laugh. I didn't know what to say. My whole belief system just collapsed right there. And I tried to argue the statistics, the great people. And she said, yes, that might be true. However, it does not come from birth. If someone succeeds with dyslexia, it's despite that he has it. Despite. There we have it again. But if those skills is nothing you're born with, then where do they come from? Because the patterns are there. The statistics, they exist, they're real. And the great people, they're among us. And then it clicked. Dyslexia doesn't give you any special abilities from birth, but it forces you to build them. You're consistently confronted with challenges your whole life, every single day. Things that seem simple for others are not simple for you. And after a while, kids adapt. You struggle with reading and writing, so you have to learn how to solve problems differently. Not once, but consistently. And after a while, you become the best problem solver in the room. You need help in certain situations. So you have to become good in communication. You ask, explain, you connect, and you build strong social skills. Think about Gutenberg, sitting in his monastery, copying books by hand, making probably mistake after mistake, being the slowest amongst the other monks, and thinking, there must be a better way. And he invented the book press. Not because dyslexia gave him the special abilities from start on to do so, but the unique way. He experienced the world like no one else does, almost forced him to do so. So no, dyslexia is not a gift, but it's pressure. Pressure to adapt, pressure to find new ways, pressure to think differently. But this is the starting point of something strong. Your own personal superpower, your own skill set, your strengths that you build that no one else has. But let's not forget that the same pressure that can lead to world-changing ideas destroys most kids before they can even build them. But this changes everything, because it's still the starting point of solving problems differently, in inventing things no one else could even imagine. And this is exactly how the world moves forward. So if you're dyslexic or neurodiverse, and you hear this, don't fight it. Don't hide it. Because different minds change the world. Thank you very much.